Yo, what it be, what it do? We're going to rate some SEO link building methods from S tier to F tier in some kind of an iDubbbz knockoff video. Let's start by talking about SAPE links. So SAPE links are basically these hacked WordPress links and possibly some other hacked sites. They were a thing in like 2012, plus or minus a few years, but they're not really a thing anymore. They're probably illegal, at least they were hacked illegally. So it might not be illegal to buy, but they're certainly illegal hacked links. And they're also, in current year, very detectable, and they also aren't even a thing you can buy. So we're going to put these down in F tier. If this were a different year, they might have a higher ranking. But since you can't even get these links, they're clearly going to be in F tier. Also down in F tier, we're going to have link wheels. So these are one of these things that are basically mentioned exclusively by these terrible SEO consultants if you go on Fiverr or Upwork or so on, where they say, sir, I can do you a nice SEO, here's my profile, here's all the things I can do, I can build you Paul and Angela links, I can make you link wheels, I can get you social signals from high PR pages. Essentially what they are is you're building a few pages, generally like free WordPress blogs and so on, Web 2.0s, and you're taking page A, making it link to page B links to page C, and page C links back to page A, and you put a link to your money site on one or sometimes all of these pages. And while this may or may not have been a thing back before I even was doing SEO, they certainly are not a thing in current year. They're extremely easy to detect algorithmically. They're usually built on the shittiest fresh WordPress or Web 2.0 sites anyway, where they're just garbage. And if you see someone listing these on their account on like Upwork or something, you can just assume that they are not exactly a high quality SEO consultant. So link wheels are in fact trash. If anyone mentions them to you in an unironic sense, you can probably ignore their opinion on SEO. I think we would all agree that link wheels belong in F tier. Next, we're going to group a few things together. We're going to take these DOCX, PPT, PDF submission sites, and then we're also going to take the guest books, which if you don't know, back in like the 90s. Actually, guest books, we'll get back to guest books. So we're going to do DOC, PPT, PDF submission sites. So basically these are just places where you take some content you already have, you submit it to some page where it'll list it, like essentially think of like Imgur, but for like PDF documents, and you get like some really terrible backlink from it. This is another kind of thing that people sell if they're basically like $3 an hour SEO consultants who, 10 cents per link, and they just build these massive links from like Pakistan or wherever. I wouldn't put them in F tier because I think the thing about these links is that they're so easy and so cheap to make that what ends up happening is, even though they're not like particularly strong, first of all, I wouldn't say that they do nothing. Like, there are certainly people who have sites that rank because of doing spammy type things like this. So the idea that like I'm some white hat guru, that's definitely not true. The thing is that it's very easy and cheap to buy these kinds of like spammy bulk links. I'm going to put our blog comments in here. Blog comments are kind of the same. I'll get to those in a second. But there's a bunch of different kinds of like really cheap links that people will build. And the thing is, it would be so cheap if you could get people penalized just by building these. People would just sabotage everyone by just building these terrible links. So what Google tends to do for these kinds of like really low effort links is they just devalue them, they just ignore them. But what ends up happening, at least from what seems to be true based on my impression of a number of different sites that I've analyzed, is that they ignore a bunch of them, but then like some will still get through and they'll give some authority. So you blast a site with 1 million links and some will get through as not being detected as spam. And even if most are devalued, you still have a net gain, and they don't penalize anyone for these kinds of links generally from what I've seen, because they're so easy to try to sabotage someone else with that you'd create a terrible incentive system by doing that. So I'm going to put them down in D tier. Like, if you're running a really spammy site, you can probably get some results by doing these kinds of things. I don't think they're particularly important to focus on if you're running like a legit site. So like I wouldn't really put too much value in them. So the other ones I'd put in this category, forum posts and blog comments. It kind of depends on what quality you're talking about, but people also sometimes do like bulk spam with these same kinds of things, where you'll like reply to people's blog comments and say like, great post, check out cheapdogs.com or whatever, some spammy affiliate site. But the thing about blog comments and forum posts, I would even put them up in C tier. Like, it really depends. You kind of actually need like a separate version of these between like good blog comments and forum posts, which can actually be pretty useful, versus like terrible spam. So I'd say like if you did a good job with them, they could even be like B or C tier. But if you do a shitty job, they'd be down in D tier. Like there's a lot more potential to actually do something with these than like PDF submission sites where just a page, there's like not even anyone there. Whereas if you actually go and find some real niche related forums, you can actually get some halfway decent backlinks and occasionally even get some traffic off of those. So I'd put them around in C tier. Wiki links are kind of the same. Not just Wikipedia, but also Wikipedia. Wikipedia definitely has much stronger like anti-spam policies, and also a lot of neckbeards who will try really hard to like keep the place clean, which I guess is good probably. Similarly to all of these, I would say that these definitely can be done really spammily, like particularly with Wikipedia, where people will like spam the site and then they'll just get their domain blacklisted, and they like don't even notice, and they say like, oh, give me my 12 cents, I spammed Wikipedia, did a really good job. It's like, yeah, you got nothing to stick on that site. You're clearly just trying to spam links for 10 cents an hour on Fiverr. But the thing about wiki links is, first of all, if you do them correctly, I actually have a case study I posted somewhere. It's called like no follow links, are they fucking bullshit? I'll post this in the comments below. And I did a test with a Wikipedia link, and I definitely saw a page move from like position 13, some random test page, not even a site I run. And it was a real like actual legitimate wiki links that I had built on Wikipedia, and it moved up from 13 to like number 1 to 2. It was a really obscure term, but that's still some pretty substantial and pretty clear movement. I tracked this for like 3 or 4 months. So I'm actually going to put these up in B tier if you do them correctly. Even though they are in fact no follow, they seem to still have an impact that is definitely not trivial on search result movement. And the other thing I have noticed about wiki links is there are a lot of sites, if you are like an obsessive like, I only want do follow links, no follow links are bullshit, which is kind of, I wouldn't really completely agree with that philosophy. But if that is your philosophy, the other thing you might notice is if you get a Wikipedia link, there are a lot of sites that will crawl and syndicate Wikipedia's content, and a lot of those are actually do follow. So you can actually end up getting do follow links from various content syndication sites, like automated content syndication sites, just by having Wikipedia links. I'd put them up in B tier. Wiki links are, I'd say they're a lot harder to do correctly than you might expect, but if you do them correctly, there's also larger benefits than you might expect. And there are also some good wikis that exist, like Local Wiki is one that's do follow, which is like Wikipedia locally, if that wasn't obvious. I think they're do follow. There's a number of other ones. They have various levels of spam filters, and I haven't really experimented too much with the other ones, but they're a thing to mess around with. Edu and gov links, these are actually pretty similar to these other kind of blog comments, forum posts. The difference is, so people do this thing, so we're going to put these, I'm actually going to put these in D tier, lower than blog comments and forum posts, because they end up being the same as, because while these blog comments and forum posts, you can actually do a good job of these, I would say there's no one that I've ever met who does a good job of, like, if you're selling edu and gov links, there is this misconception which is like edu and gov domains tend to be powerful, so therefore it's the TLD that does it. It's because they're edu sites or .gov sites. And that's usually not really true. It's generally that a college or a government site probably has a lot of authoritative links because it's a college or government site. They're generally run by pretty large organizations that are relatively well known, that are likely to get a lot of natural links anyway. So there's a correlation, but it seems to be non-causal. But regardless, people will do this thing where they say, buy these edu and gov links, they're gonna propel you in the SERPs, sir. Sherlock Holmes cracks Google, and if you get the premium package of this terrible link building service, we're going to get you to page 1. If anyone tries to sell you those, I think it kind of just, well, if anyone tries to sell you any of these blog comments or forum posts, any of these 4, they're almost certainly going to sell you spam. But these are never done correctly. They're almost always done by people who don't understand that there is such a thing as a non-causal relationship. And they're usually on terrible pages too. Like, they're not even on the homepage, or like, I mean, I'd pay some good money for a homepage link from a government site, but they're usually on like profile pages or just like really terrible shit, because they're really stretching to try to find these edu and gov links where they can actually get, or edu and gov pages where they can actually get a link, since there aren't very many of them that actually have good linking opportunities, so it ends up being almost potentially even spammier and even shittier than blog comments and forum posts. Anyway, that's enough about that. Paul and Angela links, which if you don't know, this is another term that I don't think anyone's used since maybe like 2011, 2012, that any person who isn't a incompetent person has used since 2012, 2011, maybe earlier. It used to be really popular. I guess Paul and Angela, or I guess people or something, who did this a lot and somehow got their name associated with it in some circles. Where you build these profile links, you go to website.com. You can actually do this on 256 kilobytes, unless I ban you and change your profile photo to horse porn, which I don't think I've actually done to anyone yet. You go, you make a profile, you fill out your bio, you put a link to your site, and that's pretty much it. And you can do this in like there's not necessarily a problem with that. Like if you have a website and you are a user on 256 kilobytes and you're not just blatantly spamming, feel free to link to your site. This is more referring to bulk finding as many sites as possible where you can register a user profile and fill it out, get a link, and that's pretty much it. So similarly to these, they tend to be, they tend to be the kind of thing where potentially you can see some SERP movement theoretically just because they get devalued, but some things end up slipping through. Google made a statement like recently where they said we can detect forum links or forum profile links, which I bet is even mostly true, although I think it's the same thing I just said where it's, yeah, you can detect a lot of them, but some of them probably slip through, and then you still have a net positive SERP movement or authority movement or whatever you want to call it. So I'm putting these down in D tier with other generic $3 spam. One other thing to note about all these kinds of like cheapo Indian spam is that they often can end up being orphaned. So if you think about how a web crawler works, what they crawl around the web, they follow link to link to link to link to link. So if you have a page on a site, and the only way to get to it is to visit it directly, so it's not linked from the home page or an article or anywhere. So you could follow the link, you could start on the home page, start following links, you'll never find that page. It's not connected anywhere to the rest of the internet, and not from internal links or external links. So you might call that an orphaned page. So that kind of a link, and a lot of these links in here, these cheapo spam, they also can end up being orphaned, so they're not even connected to anything. So even though they might be on a site, well, they're not connected to any kind of link authority, so A, they don't really have very much authority, and B, you're not going to have anyone actually find the links in the first place, or any crawlers. Now, there are ways that people will get around that by like spamming a second tier or so on, usually spamming a second tier or like pinging the links or whatever. Regardless, that's something to note about these, is sometimes, even if you pay someone like 10 cents to build you this garbage, they might not even get detected at all. URL shorteners also fall into this category of terrible spam. I'm even going to put these down in E tier. What people used to do is, so a URL shortener really just redirects to your page, so that can be considered to be a link. So basically what people will do is they'll make like a bunch of URL shorteners that all point at the page you want to rank, and then they'll blast the shit of the URL shorteners. It used to be a thing people did in like fucking, again, I don't know, before 2012. Even 2012 was kind of late for that. I'd put these even lower than the stuff in D tier because they seem even easier to detect algorithmically than this other spam, and if you're going to be spamming your site anyway, you might as well just blast it directly at your homepage, since these are all going to be blasted with a tier of links regardless. And one more of these is guest books. If you don't know what a guest book is, this was a thing people would have in like the 90s, where they'd have a page where they say, you found our site, sign our guest book. They're kind of a dead thing, but sometimes people will include them in this category of like spam that people will do for 10 cents per link on Upwork or Fiverr or wherever. So it's all in the same category of complete fucking trash. Although I have considered adding a guest book to 256 kilobytes semi-ironically. I might do that. Directory submissions. Back in the day before search engines, people used to have directories of links that you could crawl. No one uses these anymore, but they still exist, and they're basically all terrible link farms. Same as the other spam. A lot of them are detected. Probably some still pass value if they aren't devalued. They're 10 cent per link spam that people sell on Upwork. I wouldn't really think too much about them. Going in D tier. Guest posts. Now, guest posts are clearly and possibly the only thing that's going to go in S tier for this post. Here's the thing about guest posts. Basically everything is a guest post in some sense or another. Basically everything that is white hat in any way, you could basically very loosely describe it as a guest post. So the standard way to have a guest post, there's a guide on how to find guest posts, is you go and you find sites, you contact them and say, hey, I wrote a post, it's related to your users. Can I do a guest post and include a link back to my site? And sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say pay me money, which if you do that, it's technically black hat. Although at the end of the day, there is no real way to detect that differently from a site that just decided to voluntarily accept your link, which would be white hat. So guest posts have a lot of benefits. First of all, they're actually a little bit difficult to do. Not that difficult, but they're more difficult than this 2 cent per hour spam. So the thing about those is that you kind of are able to be in a tier above all of the complete trash, where You have a little bit of skill, but that just kind of knocks the 90% of completely incompetent people out of the game, out of the guest post game. So you're not competing with so many people, so there's a smaller pool, so there's not so much crap that is cluttering up the sites that you're trying to get links from. Additionally, they are useful because you can customize the anchor text. You can also customize where the link appears in the post, what you link to, and so on. So it is definitely possible for search engines to infer what kind of link or where a link is located, what the context is. So is it in the content of the article? Is it a sidebar link? Is it a directory link? There are things that can be done to infer that. And if you want some proof of this, you can go to like Hrefs, and Hrefs, which is a smaller crawler than Google, they can certainly infer whether something is a WordPress link or in the content of the post and so on, and they do it with very high levels of accuracy. So you can definitely tell that Google, a company with even more money and more incentive to get it right, will also be able to detect those things. So guest posts are useful in that you get links from the actual content, from the body of the content, rather than like a sidebar link that's easily detectable as being a sidebar link and not actually the important link on that page or a directory link or whatever. So they're in the content of the post. They're generally pretty authoritative, and I mean, you can contact really shitty fucking sites. I would recommend trying to focus on a little bit higher quality stuff. I guess if you sell Viagra, you might be spammier, but if you are running like a legit site, then you should certainly focus on stuff a little higher quality. It doesn't have to be the best thing in the entire world, but something run by a real human, and you can get some very solid links, and you can actually do this completely for free. You should go find that guest post tutorial that I posted yesterday or the other day or like 2 days ago. And it goes into this in more depth, how to find sites that will actually take guest posts. And finally, these are even white hat links. If that's something that is important to you, you're not going to get your site penalized from like hacking WordPress sites, we'll talk about in a minute, or other similar things. So they're very safe links. They're very powerful links. You can get them completely for free. You're not constantly dealing with competition from really low quality Indians. And really, they are the perfect link. No cost, no overhead. They really are the S tier of links. If you don't think that guest posts are the S tier of links unambiguously, leave a comment in the comments and tell me what's your fucking tier list. But really though, you're fucking incorrect if you think guest posts are not the S tier, the absolute S tier of links. You are wrong. Next, we're going to talk about social signals, and there's actually a really long or fairly long article that goes into a lot more depth on social signals. It's by Jeb Bush, and by Jeb Bush, I mean it's by me LARPing as Jeb Bush. So there's a long kind of rant about these, and basically, so the reason I put them in C tier is the same as the other two, where you can do them correctly, but they're also often almost probably the majority of the time discussed completely incorrectly. So first of all, what is a social signal, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what they actually are. So they're generally thought of as like Facebook likes or like retweets on the Twitter or like favorites on the info blog or whatever, some social media site, like the user interaction or the user upvotes or whatever from that. So here's my impression of social signals and why I would say they're complete bullshit. First of all, I think it's implausible that Google would be using other companies' proprietary data in their ranking algorithm. That just seems like it is unlikely, or if they analyze it, they do it very loosely. Like, A, they don't really have access to that data in the same way as like Facebook would. Like, they don't have Facebook's database. But it also seems really fucking stupid to use some other multi-billion-dollar company who is a major competitor to you to have their data be an important part in your algorithm. Now, what it seems actually is the case is that, for example, if I have a post on Twitter and then it's on my Twitter profile, that's a link, first of all. So it's just a link, which is a link. That's not like a special kind of a thing. That's just a link from a social media platform. Then the other thing is if someone else, let's say like some celebrity, likes my tweet, that might now make the post I just made, it's on my user profile, but there might also be a copy on their user profile. And their user profile might have a lot of links to it because they might be a very popular person. So what seems to be the case is that social signals, in air quotes, I suppose, these user interactions, they make your link appear on more pages on the social media site, so there's more links, and they often are on more authoritative pages. Like, if you get 1,000 upvotes on Reddit, you might have your post be on probably not the top page of, probably not the homepage of Reddit, but maybe. If you got something on the homepage of Reddit, it's not the upvotes that gave you the authority, it's that you have a link on the homepage of Reddit, which is a very authoritative page. So social signals are basically bullshit, but that is not to say that links from social media site are useless, because they are actually very useful, and you can get a lot of authority from social media links if you do that correctly. So I'm putting this in C tier. It could be up to like B tier. Don't convince yourself that it is because of the upvotes or because of the likes on Facebook that is what happened. It is because of the links. Next, we're going to talk about PBNs, and that stands for private blog networks. So the basic concept behind these sites is, well, why not just build your own sites and then link from those sites to the page you want to rank? Now you have links, and you just create the sites yourself. They're not like guest posts where someone has to approve that you do that. You just make your own sites. So here's the first obvious problem with these is that, well, say you build a site, it's a brand new site, well, it has no links. So what people do with PBNs is that they will find expired domains and they will register a domain that already exists. So say I have a site called, like, I don't know, Ron Paul 2012. Maybe not literally Ron Paul 2012, but like Joe Smith for like Supreme Court of Washington 1994 or something. Maybe not that early. 2008 or something. Some random campaign site is expired. It might have had some good links, and some of them might still be live. There might still be news sources pointed at that page. The page doesn't exist, but let's say we register this domain called like Joe Smith for Washington Supreme Court.com. We rebuild the site, and then the links are still pointed at the page. They were 404, but we rebuilt the site. Now that's our site, and we can now link out to whatever we want. So that's the basic concept behind these. However, there are a number of limitations of these. And first of all, we'll talk about like the white versus black hat aspect of this. So these are very blatantly black hat links. You're deliberately going around and making sites you don't expect anyone to look at purely for the sake of creating links. So that would be considered black hat SEO. And the other thing about them is that of all the link building methods, while these kinds of shittier ones like 10-cent per link garbage that you could just spam, they tend to be something that just gets devalued. With PBN links, I have heard of people recently getting penalized for these, because the thing is, it's a lot easier to prove that, well, every PBN site, oh, they're all on the same IP address, and they're on the same IP address of the site that the PBNs are pointing to. It's probably a link building scheme. So first of all, they are potentially something that could get you penalized. I've heard of people getting their sites penalized because of PBNs. Insert some commentary about some terrible drama here. So maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you are just going pure black hat, just spamming the shit at a site, selling Clash of Clans hacks or whatever. There are still a few other problems with PBNs. First of all, they're relatively technically complicated. So you have to, for example, make sure they're on different hosting. So they're not all going to be on the same IP address. And people will make these solutions like PBN hosting type networks. And there's this whole game that people get into of like, oh, what percent should be WordPress versus not WordPress? How do you make this natural? How much should have whois privacy? Should they all have whois privacy? Should they be on different hosts? What about the registrar? So people will get into all these different things that could be footprints to detect PBNs. So they're fairly technically complicated. So if you just got into internet marketing, I wouldn't really recommend that you start fucking around with PBNs. The other thing is, even if you know all the things that go into PBNs, they're also pretty expensive. So you have to register these domains. So how much do these domains cost? First of all, there's the domain registration fee, which is like $14 or whatever per year. Now that doesn't sound like very much, but maybe you want 100 links. That's 14 times 100 that's 14 times 100 is 1,400 per year indefinitely. So that's a pretty large bill that's going to be coming back around at you in bulk a year from now. Then you have hosting. So what are you going to use for your host? If you were to get completely separate hosting from like DreamHost or whatever, that would be obviously expensive. So even with like solutions that are set up specifically for PBNs, they end up being like $3-4 a site. So you're looking at 100 sites, $3 a month for hosting. That's like $300 or $400 per month for hosting, maybe a little less, plus $1,000 a year for your registration or whatever. So you're easily looking at like $5,000 a year just to maintain a network. And that's not even going into the cost in terms of labor it takes to set up, getting content, and all of these other things. And it's also not taking into account potential auction fees well, auction fees are stupid. Don't buy auction domains. But people will, like, if it's a successful site, a lot of other people might want to register that domain, so it can get pretty expensive to try to acquire these expired domains. It's not just going to be $14, like just the plain registration fee. In a lot of cases, it's going to be an auction fee. Now, if you know what you're doing and you know how to, like, scrape expired domains on your own, which you can do, you don't necessarily have to pay those costs, but again, that goes back in the first category of it's technically complicated. Now, where are we going to put these two? And I would note there is a difference between these. So custom PBNs, I think these are fucking bullshit. Some people will be salty about this, and I'm sure this is probably one of the more controversial things here. I'm going to fucking put them in, like, E tier. I would put them in E tier. They're not F tier, but they're obscenely expensive, and they're just shittier versions of guest posts that are also technically black hat, which I'm not necessarily you have to avoid being black hat, but they are black hat. They're obscenely expensive. You have to maintain them. You have to build them. Like, the only scenario where it's even worth it to do these over guest posts is if you sell something really spammy in the first place where you can't really get guest posts. In which case, you actually still can get guest posts, you just get spammy guest posts. So custom PBNs are fucking bullshit. They are in E tier. I'm tempted to move them to F tier, but they're in fucking E tier. They're in fucking E tier. We're putting them in E tier. Fuck that. They definitely can help sites rank, but they are... I do not think they are something that is worth it. Public PBNs, you might say, what is this? Is it not a private blog network? And the answer is, well, theoretically they are, but, well, these are expensive. So a public PBN would be someone makes a PBN, they make 100 sites, and they say, hey, it's $10 per link. And if you buy 100 links, it's $50 or whatever. So they go around, they just start selling out links. They turn their 100-site network. They build their network. Maybe they spend $5,000 on it. They go around. They sell links to many different people from their sites. So these sites are almost always going to be terrible. Some people will try hard, but very few people will. And they'll have these terrible public PBNs. Now, you might think I would put them in the same tier as, like, E, but I think, like, honestly, if you buy public PBNs, you know what you're getting into. They're going to be trash. They're going to be run by someone who's potentially very reckless. All the other links are going to be terrible. It's plausible that your site could get penalized. I've heard of that happening. I have heard of people getting penalized for using these public networks. There were a few mildly, like, high profile, in air quotes, as if fucking anyone's following PBN news, except me, I guess. There are a few mildly high-profile, like, accusations about people's public-private blog networks getting penalized and fucking over a bunch of people. But if you're buying these links, you know what you're getting into. They can make sites rank. If you're trying to do churn and burn stuff in 2019, they're even something that can potentially make sites rank. That is your own game to play. I personally don't fuck around with that shit. Exact/partial match domains. Now, here's something I have a strong opinion about. Exact and partial match domains. If you have an exact or partial match domain in 2000 current year, then I'm going to mail you a cheap handgun for you to put in your fucking mouth. Exact and partial match domains. Okay, so what are these? Now, back in the day, again, I don't know, 5-10 years ago or whatever, more than 5 years ago, it used to be a major ranking signal to have... This is fucking F tier. Fuck this. It used to be a major ranking signal. Your domain name was a major ranking signal. So if you wanted to rank for buy shoes, you'd get a huge boost just by registering a domain called, like, buyshoes.com. So they say, oh, you looked for buy shoes? Oh, it's buy shoes? You must want buyshoes.com. So that's pretty exploitable because you don't actually have to do anything besides register an exact match domain. So now you'd rank for buy shoes or any keyword. So if you pick something really specific, like... best black people haircuts, or what was that fucking term in that other video? Best clippers for black hair. If you registered best clippers for blackhair.com, if you registered that domain in like 2009, you would definitely rank for that term. Now, here is the thing. First of all, that's not really a thing anymore. Your domain name is obviously taken into account, so if you have the brand name, like if you have Nike.com and Nike weren't already a brand, and someone looked up Nike, well, you might rank because there might not be anything else for your brand new brand name, but they've definitely substantially devalued the leverage of exact or partial match domains. Partial match being like instead of buy shoes, you might have buy shoes and you might try to rank for like buy blue shoes, or if you had like blueshoes.com, and then you might try to rank for like buy blue shoes or whatever. So there's different ways to do that. So the domain conveys some amount of semantic meaning, but nowhere near like it did back in like 2009 or whatever. So it's not really a thing anymore, first of all. And then second, you want to note that these domains, like the exact match domains, they were usually used for like spammy one-off churn and burn type projects. But in current year, it generally takes a little bit longer to see results than it did back in the day, like 2009 or whatever. So there's more incentive to do something longer term. And the thing is, your brand name is one of the most valuable things that you can use to make money that a lot of people just completely leave on the floor. And possibly that's partially because they do affiliate marketing and they don't really have a brand, which is another reason why I often will recommend against doing affiliate marketing, particularly for new people. If you actually sell services yourself, there's a lot more that you can monetize with because you can have things like repeat clients. You don't get repeat clients with an affiliate site. So you can actually have a brand name and you can grow a reputation. When people see the same site more and more times, they start to identify you and they start to trust you more, even if they don't really read your articles. Just recognizing, oh, I've seen this site before, makes you more trustworthy, which increases your ability to sell things and which is useful for obvious reasons. So you just throw a ton of branding in the trash. This is a stupid thing. It was a potentially logical thing for churn and burn projects in like 2009. It is not 2009. It is current year. Get a fucking branded domain. Do not do this shit. It is dumb as hell. And for reference, exact partial match domains, those are not a link building method. There are actually a few things on here that are not link building methods. We'll talk about those as we get to them. Regardless, it is still clearly an F tier. 301 redirecting expired domains. We're going to put this, so I want to put this down in like E tier with custom PBNs. So this is basically the same concept as a PBN, but rather than build a whole site and then link from that site to your new site, you just redirect it. So theoretically, that would redirect all the links. Now you magically have all the links. My impression of these, which I will put a disclaimer here, I have never tried this particular type of link building, so I don't actually know. But my impression, and what I have heard from at least one other person who I would consider at least moderately competent at SEO, is that these are fairly easily detectable. And so if you're going to even do this at all, you'd potentially be able to do like one redirect, and it would have to be something very related. If you're starting to do many different redirects, it's going to be pretty obvious that you're just buying up sites and redirecting them. No one has 17 sites all merged to the same site, and especially they don't have 17 completely unrelated sites all merged to the same site. There is also such a thing as a soft 404. So people sometimes have this idea that like instead of 404ing your pages, just redirect them to the home page, or then you'll keep all of the authority. That's generally considered to be a soft 404, which is something very detectable. There are also videos of like people from Google talking about soft 404s and how they're aware they exist, and I even believe them, even though I take everything that Google says with a grain of salt. They are easy to detect, and if you are buying a domain and you're just redirecting to the homepage, that's also something where you're probably going to result in, even if you did get the domain to be accepted as like a valid redirect and not set off any kind of spam flag or devalue flag, you'd probably run into issues where you lose a lot of the authorities just because of having a billion soft 404 errors. So you'd have to actually either rebuild out the site, in which case it's almost like, well, why not just build a PBN? I would not expect much from this method. If anyone knows more about these, like comment in the comments or something, because I would be interested to know like if this is something that works. As far as I know, they are easily detectable and a theory that sounds good, but that does not actually work in practice. Next, let's talk about some white hat SEO. I can do you a nice white hat SEO. It'll be very nice. So suggesting 404 replacements. You know, I've experimented with this some, and I haven't seen any kind of success with it, and maybe it's because I haven't tried hard enough. I've only done like 2 or 3 attempts at this. I'm going to put this in C tier because of lack of data. It's another thing where it sounds good, but where it's also like super transparent. It's like you're emailing me, obviously, because I've gotten these messages too. Everyone gets these fucking messages where they say, "Sir, I notice, according to my web crawling robot that just scrapes 404 links, I see you have a link missing on a page that includes the phrase that our robot was detected to match." And then they'll say like, oh, well, replace it with this. And it's usually garbage. So like, even if you had a good link, the probability that like people would just ignore your message because it looks like fucking spam, because it kind of is kind of high. So I don't think this works anywhere near as well as like all the gurus say that it does. You'll see all these articles on like Medium or whatever was like, this is the best way to get links. Do some outreach for 404 replacement. I'm sure someone has had some success with this. I'm sure someone has. And I bet if I tried a little harder, I could get something out of it. Like, if there were a really good page, maybe. It seems like some stupid bullshit that a guru thought was really clever, but that doesn't really fucking work, and people just keep saying this shit. So I'm putting this in C tier. I guess I'll put it in C tier. I think you can pull it off if you want to try hard, but I mean honestly, you'd probably be better off just building more guest posts. Expired Web 2.0. So these are the PBNs of Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 is, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to put these in. I'll put them in C tier even, because they are pretty effective from what I have seen. There's actually an article on our site about these called Tumblr Spam Used to Manipulate Search Results. There's also something about all of these methods, or at least many of them, in the ebook about Black Hat SEO. And if you are a subscriber, you can also check that out. Does Black Hat SEO work? 7 Black Hat link building methods used. So expired Web 2.0. A Web 2.0 is essentially like a WordPress blog, not a WordPress site, not a site using the WordPress CMS, but a blog like site.wordpress.com or dogpictures.weebly.com or golden hooker or whatever .tumblr.com. I swear to God, every expired Tumblr is like, it's like golden hooker or like sad tween or like some fucking stupid shit. Anyway, Tumblr is particularly notorious for this. But basically, it's the same concept as PBNs. There are links pointed at these free blogs, these Web 2.0s. They become available for re-registration because someone either closes their account or their account is... Well, usually it's if they close their account, but Tumblr had a thing where if you didn't log in for like 2 years, they would unregister your username, which I think is the stupidest thing ever. Tumblr seems to not understand how the internet works. They keep doing weird fucking shit. Maybe the people who run it are just like wizards and they have some great master plan, but it seems like they're just doing retarded shit constantly. Anyway, they released a bunch of old usernames that people hadn't used. So there's a bunch of these like expired Tumblrs, some of which have links to them that you could just register and build links to your site from. So that's another thing you can do. And it definitely is something that people have had a lot of success with in the spamming area, or the world of internet spam. Unlike PBNs, even though you have to build them, once you build them, they're just live forever, unless they get banned, or if Tumblr does another domain release, or you'd have to log in to prevent that. I guess log in once per year. There's no upkeep cost, which makes them way better than these. They're actually viable, I would say. But they are a lot of work. You have to go find them. You are limited to the number of domains. One thing that seems to be true about SEO is that if you could get 2 great links from one site, or like 2 slightly worse links, but they're from different sites, like you should go for the second ones. So a larger number of referring domains seems to be better than just more links. So it seems like if you have like all Tumblr links, you would probably start to run into diminishing returns because you're building them all on the same master domain. There's probably, it seems like Google does handle like clusters fairly well. So if you have like links from different parts of Tumblr or completely different Weebly's, you probably still get some benefit, but it also seems like something that Google is probably aware of, and there's probably some effort to devalue like a billion links all from the same Web 2.0. That does seem to be one of the bigger limitations there. The other one is that you have to actually register and build the sites, and you also are going to end up having to use proxies because they're not going to let you just register at 10,000 accounts. So that also brings in some expenses. It makes it more difficult to outsource because VAs usually don't know how to use proxies. They are the kind of link building method where it might be worth it for you to build a few of them, and you'll probably start to hit diminishing returns over time. Regardless, they don't have upkeep costs. Some of them might be pretty powerful, and if you are trying to sell Viagra or Clash of Clans hacks or the best legit homeopathic, legit natural steroids, they are something that is certainly used by people successfully and effectively in 2000 and current year. If you're in a black hat niche, I'd even move these up to B tier, and partially because we're going to put fresh Web 2.0s down in C tier. So fresh Web 2.0s, same as these. If you did a good job with them, they could be pretty good. If you did a terrible job, they could be bad. If someone's selling them on Upwork, they're going to do a shitty job. If they're selling them on SEO Clerks, they're going to do a shitty job. And you might want some shitty Web 2.0 fresh garbage, some shitty social signals, some shitty blog comments. You don't want shitty social signals, but you might want shitty blog comments and shitty forum posts. So same as these. The same as just blogs that are free. You're making them from scratch. They're usually shitty. Now, GSA and XRummer are, for those of you who don't know, they're automated link building tools. We're going to put them here in C tier, and the reason why I put them in C tier is because they're like all of this crap, except rather than work with a human, you don't have to work with a human. As to their quality, there are still people ranking with pure spam type XRUM or GSA links in the current year. Now, I think that it would be probably hard to rank with only those links. It seems like you might have a hard time spamming if you're on a brand new site, but it's pretty clear that these still work at least to some extent in the current year, partially for the same reasons as these. Some of them will likely get devalued, or at least many of them will likely get devalued, but because there's so many links, it seems to be the case that at least some of them will slip through and improve your site's authority, even though many of them might be devalued, and even though they might look like complete garbage links. It's pretty clear that people are still ranking with these, despite the fact that people insist that they are not. Infographic submission sites, these are essentially, I'm putting them a tier above these, the DOC, PPT, PDF submission sites, because the thing is, most people are too lazy to actually make infographics, even though it's actually not that hard. There was a guide on here on how to do it, actually, and I'll link that below. So most people are too lazy to make infographics, so despite the fact that there are a fair amount of infographic submission sites that are used by a lot of people just for link building, some infographic sites are actually kind of decent, but there are certainly many that are shitty. So it depends partially on what kind of infographic submission site you are actually talking about. But there definitely are some that are good, and even the infographic submission sites that are shitty, the worst infographic submission sites are better than like the best, or at least the worst infographic submission sites are better than like 90% of these PDF submission sites that are all just trash that any random asshole can do. So just because there's a higher barrier to entry, the quality of these kinds of links seems to certainly be higher. And there are a lot that are actually pretty clean links and not spam. So parasite pages, these are actually not links being built either. They are a technique to try to rank. Rather than your own site, you register like a WordPress blog, then you spam it to death, and it's an easy free blog, so you can just blast the shit out of it. It's also not on your own domain, so it seems to have historically at least been likely that search engines will be less likely to suspect pages on these larger sites of being spam, since they're on a well-known site. So people are able to, for example, register a WordPress blog or make a post on a hidden subreddit and then spam their subreddit to try to rank the subreddit in search results and so on. And then once you have that page, that parasite page, you either put your money link on that page directly and just try to rank the page, or you have that page have a link back to your money site or whatever. Well, really, if you're having a link back to your money site, you're not building these 4 links. That's the whole point. You're trying to you might be funneling traffic back to your money site, or more likely you just have your money offer on that page. So maybe you make a Reddit thread, then you spam the shit out of it. You get it to rank for like best headphones Reddit, and then you have a nice post that says like, oh, I like headphones, and here's the ones I use, and it's a link to an affiliate page or something. So I think these sound really good in theory, like they seem like a really plausible thing. They seem to have worked better in the past than currently, but there are definitely people still ranking with these. Like I saw a guy rank for a really valuable keyword in a semi-spammy niche fairly recently, like a year or two ago, and he was using like a Huffington Post contributor article, and he just blasted the shit out of it with like GSA, and he was ranking page 1 for a very valuable keyword, like probably like 10,000. He was probably making like 10,000 a month from this fucking listing. Maybe not quite. Well, it kind of depends. Whatever. He was making a bunch of money from it, for sure. Maybe more than 10K. I don't know. He wasn't at the very top of the page. He was at like the bottom of the page for a pretty big buyer keyword in a high value niche. Anyway, enough about that. I think these are certainly doable. You know, I'm even going to put these in B tier with like the asterisk that like a lot of time they seem like they often are not done correctly. But I've seen people in current year pull some really good stuff out of these kinds of links, even though they seem to not be as useful or trendy as they were back in like 2014 plus or minus. Okay, let's talk about hacking WordPress sites. So, like, what the fuck do I even mean by this? So, obviously, hacking WordPress sites is kind of straightforward. You break into them, and then you can do whatever you want at that point. So, what is this in the context of SEO? So, first of all, this is pretty blatantly illegal. Out of everything on here, this is the most illegal. So SAPE links were basically the same as these, except SAPE, the notable thing about SAPE was that like there were like Russians or Ukrainians selling the links. That was one of the main characteristics. And the second is that they would inject footer and sidebar links for you. Hacking WordPress sites more generally is still a thing, even though the SAPE network isn't. So you could just go like try to brute force WordPress passwords or whatever and potentially break into some sites. Then once you are into those sites, either through a bot or manually, what you could do is, well, there's a lot of things you could do. You could add your links to their articles, so links to your sites to their articles to try to rank your page by injecting links. You could add a footer link or a sidebar link, which I wouldn't even necessarily recommend, even if you're doing this, which you probably shouldn't. You could also do, like, you can combine this with, like, cloaking, which I've seen people do, where they would inject hacked pages that would use cloaking, which we'll talk about in a minute, and they would show fake content to search engines, like keywords, stuffed, spun content, and then real users would get redirected to the money site. That used to be a thing that people were doing. I think they probably still are, although I think a lot of those sites got fixed and detected. There's actually an article that Google published on, like... There was a thing Google published. I'll link it if I remember and can find it. And it was about, like... It was about this as well. They published something fairly recently, so I think they definitely... They were doing some work to, like, try to detect and prevent this kind of stuff. But anyway... Or to prevent them from getting fucked over from it. Like, I don't think they're going to fix WordPress. And not that WordPress is broken, it's just that it's such a common thing that gets hacked all the time. Because people have, like, shitty passwords and so on. Anyway, what was the point? Right, so there, I would say, like, where you put this depends on whether you're just going to ignore the fact that it's illegal and you probably shouldn't do it for ignoring the fact that it's also illegal. I think that you could potentially still get a lot of success from that. Like, I mean, there's probably more subtle ways you could do it. Like, I've seen some of the stuff I've seen, like the hacking and redirecting and cloaking, that's pretty blatant. But I bet there's people out there who are doing a more subtle thing where they, like, just inject links and they're not doing the whole, like, cloaking thing. I mean, it's still pretty blatantly illegal. But if you did this correctly, like, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I would not condone this. Like, I'm not even a moral fag. I would recommend that you don't do this, but I'm going to put it in A tier just because there are still people getting good results by doing that, and generally living in, like, Ukraine, where there's no laws and you can just hack sites and you're not going to get fucking extradited to the United States over it. Alright, let's talk about cloaking. So cloaking, which I touched on briefly, this is also not a link building method. Essentially what you do, so what search engines do is they crawl your page, they look at your content, and then they decide, okay, it's about shoes or whatever, and then they use that information to generate their search result pages. So cloaking is where we figure out how can we detect if a search engine is viewing our site, and a search engine will show one thing, and then humans will show something else. What we can do is, say we want to rank for, like, how to, what was it, black men's hair clippers, or whatever the hell that shitty keyword was. What we could do is, instead of writing an article, we could just have a generic landing page that says, buy this specific clipper brand, and then we can use spun content, or just fake, randomly generated bullshit content that has keywords in it, but it's not really actually real content. Then if we have a search engine land there, we show this fake article that's not really understandable to a human, it's just garbage, but it tricks the search engine into thinking, oh, this is a real page. And then the human, instead of showing that, we redirect them to a generic, buy this specific razor now. Like this, buy this razor. It's not an article, it's just buy this razor. Then we can do that for a bunch of different terms. They all have fake content, and then just redirect to this page that says, buy this thing now. You're trying to basically cheap out on writing content by, well, not even just cheap out, but be able to have infinite content, because you say, look, we totally have content, and you just redirect people to a generic landing page, so the humans just see the same landing page every time. There are a few problems with this method. The first is that, well, one, it's pretty blatantly, out of all the things you can actually get a site penalized for, it's definitely up there. It's pretty blatant as a SEO method, because it's not like link building. We can say, like, oh, that guy framed me. It's like, oh, this is your site. You're setting this up on your site. So it's pretty blatantly you, and people definitely get penalized for cloaking, at least blatant cloaking. There's some minor cloaking going on, like Quora does some cloaking. Fucking Forbes does cloaking. I have a whole article complaining about this. Not even complaining, pointing out that fucking everyone cloaks. Tumblr fucking does cloaking. Everyone fucking does cloaking. Yeah, spoofing your user agent as Googlebot. This is an article I'll link. Yeah, so a lot of sites do like minor cloaking, but there's like this blatant cloaking where you have spun content and then you redirect to like stupid bullshit. I've seen people do very well with cloaking. The most successful cloaking I've seen is always combined with people hacking WordPress sites, although you don't necessarily need to do that. It seems like people will hack WordPress sites and then cloak things and then redirect to some generic landing page. I've definitely seen people do a lot of that and be very successful with it. Like, there was a niche I was in like a few years ago where, definitely a few years ago, I saw a shit ton of like hacked WordPress sites that were using cloaking to a lot of success for like every imaginable long tail. I think they were Ukrainians. They were almost certainly Ukrainians. Ukrainians are basically the master race of SEO. Like, if you need a VA, Ukraine is like the #1 destination. Anyway, there's a chapter about that in the Ultimate Guide to Internet Marketing ebook, which is in the ebook section. I'll link that as well. Ukrainians are the master race. What the fuck are we talking about? So cloaking, I'm just gonna group this with hacked WordPress sites, even though it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to hack a WordPress site to do cloaking. They go together pretty often. Well, no, I'm not gonna put it in A tier. It's, you know, it really depends. Like, if you're willing to just risk having a penalty and you're going to do some churn and burn shit, you know what? We're just grouping it with this. I wouldn't personally do it. I think you're pretty likely to just... It's way too churn and burny for my taste, I would say. Like, I don't think I'd want to... You would get your site hit reasonably quickly. If you ever had your site manually reviewed, you would get hit. Like, 100% you would get hit. Anyway, I wouldn't personally do it. I think there are people still doing it, but that's kind of why you have to do the hacked WordPress site thing, is that, like, it would be a pain in the ass to build this on a site that isn't a hacked WordPress site. Like, I can't see I just can't imagine the like, viability of cloaking unless you're also hacking sites. So I'm just going to cluster these together. There's definitely people who do it without hacking sites. I guess you could do it if you wanted to do like a churn and burn like PBN thing. I don't think that's going to work super... Like, that seems like the kind of thing that would have probably worked pretty well like 10 years ago, but it seems impractical to do something so churn and burn in current year. Whatever. I'm grouping it with hacking WordPress sites as... It's a sub-point of that. There you go. Doorway pages are basically the same thing as cloaking. The definition that people use for doorway pages, it seems to kind of vary. Like, I don't think people quite 100% agree on those, which makes it kind of hard to figure out where to group this. Doorway pages are generally defined as, like, pages where they're either really thin content, and sometimes they're just cloaked. Like, but then it's like, well, is cloaking a doorway page? It's kind of like a Venn diagram. They're generally like really thin pages, either automatically generated or kind of pointless pages where the real goal is just to funnel the user back to the home page or the buy now page. And not like shitty thin blog posts, but like either like an automated result or like kind of just spun, not even, well, it could be spun or like automated or like stupid pointless like query search result pages within your site, like your own site's internal search result pages with like some kind of bullshit like fake content where it's like a search result page is real, but like where you might be like trying to rank a bunch of shitty automatically generated pages where it just like puts data in and shits out like a filler page. Essentially, it's almost like a broader definition of cloaking where it's not necessarily spun. It might not necessarily show different things to the search engine and the human, but it's kind of a pointless, like, automatically generated page that is either going to do some cloaking shit and just automatically redirect versus show spun content. Or it might be a really thin page where it's just like a search result and has a button that says go to the home page or go to the order page, and there's really nothing at all on the page besides that, and some kind of filler. And not filler like blog post filler. I already said that, but really it's more like stupid automated crap. The definition on this is a little ambiguous. It's essentially a broader term for cloaking. I'm just going to put it like... it's essentially a broader term for cloaking. I'm going to group this with these three... Well, no, I'm going to group this with these two conceptually, but I would almost put it like as a separate thing. Where, you know what? No, I'm gonna put it down in like... I'm actually gonna put... Well, no, I'm gonna kind of group this together, but I would distinguish it from these in that, like, I think it's not necessarily quite as sleazy. It can be. It really depends on what you do. It's generally more like thin automated content it might be complete trash or complete spam, but sometimes it's just like really thin shit. The thing about that, though, is that it's kind of hard to rank really thin shit, too, unless you're kind of doing the cloaking. So you get back to the same thing, which is it's hard to rank the content unless you're also kind of doing other bullshit anyway. It's kind of a thing you can't really even do without also cloaking. And then if you're doing cloaking, it's like, well, you might as well just hack WordPress sites. You know what? I'm just going to group it with these three. It generally goes with cloaking, and cloaking successful cloaking often goes with hacking WordPress sites, or hacking general sites, but WordPress is particularly easy to hack because it's all standardized and everyone uses it, and a lot of people have shitty passwords and shitty security practices. Although these might not even belong in A tier. You know, I'm leaving it in A tier. If someone who is good at hacking and who lives in Ukraine probably has a setup that's very profitable involving all of these. And the last two are pretty similar. We'll talk about donor and sponsor links first. I would put this in, like, unironically A tier. So, like, not even sleazy A tier and then, like, regular A tier. I'd put that in A tier. So the way these work is that, like, let's see, I'm even going to pull up fucking phpmyadmin.com. So there will be sites, and they'll list their sponsors. Even this large site, phpmyadmin. They have, like, these sponsors, and it's like, I guarantee you promo code WATCH did not pay money to... Yeah, this is just like, this is a sleazy fucking shitty affiliate site where they shill for SeatGeek. So this is a piece of shit site. They didn't donate, like, $1,000, because they even have the fucking image. This is the gold sponsors. What's the cost for that? Gold, $5,000. They didn't pay $5,000 because they just love phpMyAdmin. Like, I'm sure this DUI law firm or patent law, whatever. I'm sure San Francisco's top-rated attorney fucking did this just because he's a huge fan of phpMyAdmin. So anyway, there are some sites on here that I know for a fact do very well. Like, they have some really good money. Like, there are people who use these links to a lot of success. I've particularly seen a number of sites in, like, the web hosting niche do really well with these kinds of links. phpMyAdmin, what do they charge here? Like, there's a few different tiers: silver, gold. This is bronze. So the least you'd have to, the minimum is $1,000 you have to pay for a link. But this is a pretty expensive donor link. There are sites that sell donor links for a lot cheaper. Or sell links. They don't sell links, but they definitely sell links. But it's kind of like plausible deniability in terms of like, oh no, we just donated because we like this and we happen to have a link. So like, well, it's the kind of thing where it's like, if you have a pretty good site, it's like, well, you know, you might have just donated. So like, there's a lot of stuff like that where it's not necessarily spam, and like phpAdmin is even a good piece of software. So it's kind of blatantly selling links. And regardless of that fact, though, there are people out there doing very well with it. It seems like the kind of thing where it's not super likely to result in people getting penalized just because it's such a... Well, just because there are legitimate reasons why you might donate money besides just trying to get that link. So, I don't know. Maybe that'll change. Maybe Google will see this video and do a whole thing where they go and, like, track a bunch of donor sites down and be like, look, you were wrong. We penalized all these people. In which case, post in the comments below and tell me how you got penalized for fucking getting donor links. Anyway, the thing is clear, though, that there are people doing very well with these links right now. I've seen multiple sites do really well with these links. So there's your fucking secret of the day until it gets fucking fixed, because I made this video. Donor links, and then sponsor links, I'd consider those to be the same thing, but they'll be like, actually those ones are probably more like sponsor links, where they're kind of like renewing once per year you donate. The donors of this year, Mastodon has... join mastodon.org. I'm going to pull this up too. Mastodon has a similar thing where it's like they'll say everyone who's donated this month, so people have like a subscription where they donate. Like, I don't think the guy who runs Mastodon even realizes that, like, fucking sex collective, fucking, what is this? Paperly, is this a fucking essay writing company? Probably. Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. So like, they're sponsors, and they're sponsors on Mastodon, so it's like you're not really like selling links, but you're kind of selling links. Like, it's basically selling links anyway. But the thing is, this is a subscription rather than a flat rate. Some sites will have flat rate donor links, so everyone who's ever donated will have a link. Some will have like subscriber type links, but there are definitely some pages out there that are very authoritative that people are doing very well on by donating to these companies and being listed on their donors page. Anyway, and then the last one is scholarship links. That's actually not that similar. But the way that scholarship links work is that scholarship links are also a kind of similar thing to donor and sponsor links. So basically, here's how this process works. A bunch of universities will have pages where they'll list, like, here's all our scholarships that we know about that our students might be interested in. So what some SEO consultants will do is they say, hey, let's have like a $500 scholarship. Some companies pay the scholarship out. Some companies just say, we have a scholarship. And it's like, no, you don't. You're just fucking scamming people. You're just fucking lying to people and saying you have a scholarship. But anyway, some people actually will just create scholarships for this. Some people just lie and say they have a scholarship. Like, if you ever see a scholarship called, like, the shitty water heater scholarship, don't apply to that. Like, that's not a guy. Well, water heater might be, but if you see, like, the Clash of Clans hack scholarship, it's like, that's not a scholarship. They're not paying that out. They're just trying to get links. And they're succeeding at getting links, probably. But anyway, universities have a list of, like, pages that have scholarships. Universities, high schools, sometimes, like, charities will have pages, too. There's a bunch of pages you can find. And if you look, the guest post tutorial has a talk about, or a section about how, like, you can use footprints to find leads. You can use the same kind of thing to try to find these scholarship pages, like, in URL, or, like, particular matches for titles and so on. You can use, like, Scrapebox if you want to try hard. And there's a lot of these pages. Like, there's a shit ton. So what you do is you make a scholarship, have a page on your site called, like, website.com/scholarship, and you have some information, you have the details. Then you write a letter, and you have a template that says, like, we have a scholarship, please list our scholarship. Then you get a VA, probably, or a script, to automatically contact or manually contact a whole bunch of scholarship listings. Say, hey, we have a scholarship listing. Well, we have a scholarship, and you should put it on your page, and then you should get and put a link on your page. And a lot of times they will, and there's so many of these. There's so fucking many of these scholarship pages that even if you have a shitty link or a shitty scholarship, like the Clash of Clans hack fucking mobile gaming scholarship, this is a real thing that I've seen. Like, I swear to God, there's these terrible, terrible scholarships. Actually, I'm going to look this up. Like, look at this shit. Look at this fucking garbage. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up here. This is totally a real scholarship. The $2,000... The $2,000... I'm not going to fucking... Should I allow notifications from clashofclanslovers.com? The $2,000 digital marketing scholarship for e.g. Clash of... Read this shit. Clash of Clans Lovers is a website for those who love playing and enjoying asteroid games we provide. 2 spaces. They don't even fucking read this. These people literally have links. Look at this shit. Look at this fucking garbage. So, look at this fucking shit. Okay, so how many links does this page have? If it's more than one, I'm gonna kill myself. It's got one. It's got one, though. Look at this. They have one. This literal Clash of Clans hack scholarship. They didn't even proofread it. They just lie and say, look at this shit. They have a fucking link. Look at this shit. It's like UR8. That's not terrible. Like, that's a fine link. And if they tried harder, they could have a lot more of these links. There are fucking other... Like, I know this looks like... I guess this is fucking 504. Who cares? Doesn't matter. They have a link. They have a fucking link. They literally have a fucking link. So this site is a piece of garbage. But anyway, they fucking have this link for literally... The first sentence in this is talking about Clash of Clans hacks. It's in fucking, like, broken Pakistani English, linking to a fake fucking Clash of Clans hack. Literally, these people have scholarship links. This is retarded. Alright, I'm out of my fucking mind. This is I'm gonna read this whole fucking thing. Best products which can cover all their requirements for e.g. Clash of Clans hacks. Exhibit their abilities. Look, read this shit. Literally read this shit. We're gonna link to this below. Fucking, I might just post the URL. I'm not gonna fucking link to this page. But I will reference where you can find this in the fucking section below. This is garbage. This is the worst, like, lowest effort. The subject is digital marketing and its importance in society on clashofclanshack.com/scholarships. This is real. Are there more of these? Literal Clash of Clans hack scholarship? Look at this shit. Look at this fucking garbage. Alright, well, there's just the one, but there are some other... I've seen, like, legit natural steroid scholarship. There's some other really fucking stupid ones. Alright, so the point is, you can get way more links than that guy had than just the one. Like, there are people who have many, many, many scholarship links. There are a few limitations to this. Like, one is that, well, A, you have to pay out the scholarship unless you're an asshole. And then second, like... you have to renew the links, so they're only going to last for a year because they'll usually take them down once the year is over because they're going to list new scholarships. So you have to either renew it, so that's a pain in the ass. There's a lot of administrative overhead. You have to have the scholarship. You also are only going to get the links to your scholarship page, and you might not, you're probably not trying to rank your scholarship page. You want to get the authority to your site in general, which you do from doing that. But you also want to have it to like particular inner pages, which you can do with donor and sponsor links, but not really with, or some donor and sponsor links, but not scholarship links. So scholarship links, though, what you can do is have like internal links on that page to your important, like that guy literally he had a link to his Clash of Clans hack page on his scholarship page, which I'm actually impressed he remembered to do that. In your fucking garbage site, you still remember to do it. So you can funnel the authority around with internal links. It's certainly limited that you have to renew it. You only get it pointed to your scholarship page. Some guy from, I think it was like 10beasts.com. I think I can find this article. 10beasts. Yeah, 10beasts scholarship article. This guy did a whole thing where he was like apparently penalized or something. I haven't fucking read this story. But the thing is, the guy was also like, he was like super publicizing that he was using this scholarship link building method, and then he got penalized for it. So it seemed like it was kind of like the guy was doing it for links and like being blatant about it. And I think probably partially like Google if they did penalize him, he might also just be retarded and he wasn't even penalized and he just said he was, because people do that shit all the time. They're like, I'm penalized. Like, no, you're not. You're not penalized. Your rankings just moved slightly. It's not the same fucking thing. But he could have been penalized because he was talking about it so much, if that did happen. He could have been penalized, like, just to set an example because he was running a marketing blog saying, oh, I was penalized. I might look into that more. I'll link this below this video. I don't think that the scholarship link building method is as amazing as it has been hyped up to be. It's not really like a long-term strategy. You have to renew it. You can't control where the links are going. It seems like the kind of method where Google plausibly has even done something specifically targeting this kind of link building, because it's really specific. Like, they might have done something related to it if they did do a whole thing with like penalizing some guy. It's possible. But regardless, there's a lot of limitations to it. It's a pain in the ass. You have to pay a bunch of money for a scholarship. And I guess the thing is, you probably could get good results if you got scholarship links from like good pages. But a lot of these scholarship pages are also shitty, massive directories with like hundreds and hundreds of links. If you like did a really targeted scholarship link thing, you made a real scholarship and you just contacted like good like the best of the scholarship listings, and you really try-harded, and you actually had like a real scholarship, and you weren't like just fucking around and like fucking wasting people's time, you might be able to get some results from this. It's kind of hard to say with a lot of certainty. I'm going to even put it in B tier, and I think it has potential. I think it has potential, but I don't think it's really worth fucking with unless you actually, like, already are like, oh, I'll offer a scholarship because I want to send a bunch of children to have, like, sex in a Karl Marx-themed fucking dungeon. I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it's a thing you could get some results for if you actually wanted to have a scholarship. You know what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move infographic submission sites up, because I think they're a tier above these. And oh, you know what? Fuck that. No, I'm leaving that down here. I would put scholarship links as like, ugh. You know, they don't deserve to be. Well, they could be B tier. No, you know what? They're B tier. They're fucking B tier. They're solidly B tier. Alright, so this is the final tier list. Let's see. Is there anything that needs to change? No, guest posts are literally the master race, followed by donor and sponsor links. People are fucking slaughtering some niches with those right now. The donor links. People have always been slaughtering niches with guest posts. Like, they're guest posts. What else do you want from me? Hacking shit and cloaking in doorway pages. This is the definitive B tier. Scholarship links and parasite pages are like the specialty B tier. Like, the kind of situational B tier. And then you have, like, this is the expired web 2.0s are like black hat B tier if you're running like a fucking Viagra site, and then wiki links are like white hat B tier. And you can only really get good wiki links in like white hat niches. It's not, you can't really get wiki links in like good wiki links in shitty black hat niches, because there's all these neckbeards who will fucking just remove your spam. These are correct. They really depend on how you do them. That's the definitive tier list. Some of these are commonly fucked up, but I think you can do all of these. Suggesting 404 is like overhyped, but I think you can still get some results out of it, probably. This is all fucking trash. Guest books actually probably... No, guest books are trash. These are trash. This is probably trash again. If anyone knows more about this, post in the fucking comments. Fucking Nargil is who I was talking to about this, but I'm pretty sure Nargil's actually correct. Custom PBNs are obscenely expensive and stupid. Just get guest posts. This doesn't work. You throw your branding in the trash. This is worse than even bad. This is fucking over your entire fucking site just to get a shitty domain name that sucks. Your brand is way more important. Link wheels aren't a thing. SAPE isn't even it doesn't exist anymore. URL shorteners are dumb as hell. They're even dumber than this shit. URL shorteners are like the fucking shittiest of all the fucking spammy garbage. URL shorteners are trash. This is the definitive tier list. Anyone who disagrees should be shot. In conclusion, fucking Hash Brown may or may not post a fucking follow-up reply to this video. This is the definitive tier list, though. I'm interested to know what you people think about, I don't know, maybe scholarship links, maybe fucking, I don't know. This is guru trash. I'm pretty sure I'm correct about this. If anyone disagrees with me on that, this might be controversial. This might be controversial. You know, B tier actually is probably the most controversial. And then this, maybe. I don't think anyone's a fucking guru on this site, so maybe not. This is correct. This might be controversial. This might be controversial. This, I am not even sure. I think probably the PBNs. The PBNs and expired domain shit are probably the most controversial. Maybe this. Maybe some of the B tier stuff, and then I think everything else is just obviously correct. Like, obviously correct. If you question anything else, I'm gonna fucking... You better have a good fucking explanation for why you disagree with the fucking gospel that is this tier list. Alright, get the fuck out unless you're gonna fucking reply to this thread or fucking reply to one of these tiers and explain why there's something that's wrong about this chart. Alright, get the fuck out unless you're gonna fucking comment on this thread and explain why one of these tiers is incorrect, or post your own fucking video reply to this thread if that's something that you want to do. Or don't. I'm not your dad. Get the fuck out.